This psychedelic replication belongs to my guest and legendary visual artist, Loka. The accuracy achieved through his novel techniques have shocked the world and created a bridge for non-trippers to behold what words cannot describe.
How many grams would you say that is?
Yeah, see, I love that lighting effect where it's like clouds, shadows.
And if you have any interest in psychedelic trip reports, then you know the name of my next guest, Vivec. He's helped shed a light on both the dark and beautiful side of psychedelics, and now Vivec uses his channel and his profound pool of knowledge to answer the community's most important questions. These two guests are very close friends of mine, and I'm extremely honored to have had this conversation with them. You're going to hear about these creators' inspiring, enjoyable trips and their dark, challenging ones. What motivates them to explore these substances, as well as what about them they find most terrifying. A big shout out to my patrons for supporting this page, and feel free to check out the sponsors in the description below to help me make more content. Anyway guys, thank you for watching and enjoy the podcast. What? Have you ever tripped while doing like a live set?
Yeah, I've do you know what's weird? Every single time I DJ, I usually take 2CB, and it's scary how much I notice myself going on autopilot. Like there is no thought like, oh, I need to turn this dial off. So it's literally just like you're in a
the flow.
You're in a flow state, complete flow
That's
state.
sick.
It's actually insane. Like your ego tries so hard to actually like make it go wrong, but you're so purely conscious that you're just literally in tune with everything. It's mad. A lot of the I bet a lot of DJs through doing Rosa Festival, and they're all on psychedelics. They have a bit of mushies beforehand. They always have something to amp them up a bit. Same with like guitarists and stuff, aren't they? Like backstage, they're all fucking doing mad shit, aren't they? Before they go out to hype them up.
Yeah,
that's right.
Yeah.
It's mad.
Do you have you ever done anything else, or is it just like 2CB before doing a set?
I think I've done it on a bit of everything. To be fair. Yeah, 2CB is the best one though for mixing. 100%. I think 2CB is like a very. It's just the most. It's the most light psychedelic I've ever taken, because even though it can get really, really trippy for some people, but I just know exactly what I'm in for when I take that. I just know I'm like, right, my consciousness is just going to be like refined. I'm going to have some funky visuals. I know what I'm in store for. Whereas other psychedelics, it's like they can take you here, there, and everywhere. But 2CB is just seems to give me the same thing every time, which is good, and that's why I think it's the best recreational drug, really. Because
so I've never done 2CB before.
No.
And I've heard like everybody talk about it being like the best drug at a party or something like that. It's obviously like one of the classic psychedelics, but like what's it most similar to for something I would have done?
People online like to describe it as a synergy between MDMA and LSD, but when you actually take it, it's nothing like what your mind actually imagines it to be. It's got, in a sense, it's got like the energy of MDMA without the like, fucking burning my head off and like, and then but it's not got the weird like spacey roller coastery like cosmic stuff of acid. So it's like a very, very gentle. It's just like a gentle trip, a gentle funky trip, really. But then some people take it and they explode. So I've read 2CB trip reports where like some guy took like 20 milligrams and then he started hallucinating entities. So it just shows you like nobody knows how these chemicals are affecting you on a relative level.
Right. What do you think about overdosing on cannabis?
Whoa.
Because all of my most wicked experiences I've ever had in my life were from ungodly doses of THC.
Cannabis puts me in like full-on God consciousness mode, but also it implements this like existential dread into. Obviously I've got ADHD, so like when I smoke weed I used to smoke weed all the time, but now that I've got no tolerance, when I have it now, it just sends me into like hyper consciousness mode, but sometimes not in a good way. Just too much. It's like my mind is not meant to handle this. It feels like I'm on like fucking 5-MeO or something. It's weird.
I've described it with my cousin. He's had some pretty rough experiences with it as well, and I've called it in the past. I've referred to it as baby salvia because it's like it can be like downright awful, like really bad.
Yeah.
I've had some of my most uncomfortable experiences on cannabis. Like genuine, I've had like panic attacks on it. Really, really messes me up. There's a fine line though, but I mean, I don't smoke weed habitually at all. I just have this like Pax Mini. I literally like if I'm say restless in bed, I'll just have like a little toot on it, and that's enough to just calm me down. But I know if I have that extra tote, I'll be gone. Like it'll just send me. It's really crazy. But it all changed.
Yeah.
It all changed for me when my relationship with weed changed when I had 4-ACO DMT. I had that like 90 milligrams of it. This was like my deepest trip ever, where it was like, okay, this is not here anymore. Like the mask is gone. I'm the cosmic consciousness, alien hive mind thing. And ever since then, cannabis is not just I'm getting fucking blaze, man. It's like so I can never go back to just being this.
Well, I would
normal stoner.
Dude, I've experienced. I think with all of these substances, each substance could be viewed as an entity or a stable dimension, and your relationship, let's say cannabis, for example. Cannabis is an entity, like an energy. It's one dimension that'll always be the same thing. So it's like an anchor. So you know that you're interfacing with the same consciousness as you're taking the same molecule, right? Or the same entity, rather. And I've found that over time, I can have moments where my relationship with cannabis is like red alert, horrible. And there are other times in my life where my relationship with it is beautiful. It's super gentle with me. It's fun. It's relaxing. And yeah,
Same, man.
my relationship with it radically changed after I smoked cannabis during a psilocybin trip. But then it took me another 12 months after that to rekindle my relationship with cannabis to where it was enjoyable again. So it's like, you still have control over these things. It just takes practice and dedication. And dosage is everything, dude. If you get a low enough dosage, you can interface with it at a reasonable stake, you know?
Yep, you're bang on there.
Why do you think it goes like bad sometimes though?
What?
It's a traumatic high. It's getting high to the point where you're just not prepared for it, and it fragments your psyche.
My heart starts going, and then
Yeah, me
obviously
too,
your physical body will affect your mental well-being as well. So as soon as my heart starts racing, my mind starts racing, then my consciousness starts going into like overdrive of like, oh my god, it's fucking existential dread, everyone's gonna die. Like honestly, I feel like in a way it's horrible, the things that I've experienced on cannabis, but also actually makes me like empathize with people who might actually have like schizophrenia or like be genuinely insane. I was like, this is what it feels like to actually be insane. It makes me empathize with them. Like I went to this it was sort of like a free party, not quite a rave, not quite a festival, and me and my mate went there, and it was we had the best experience ever. And the whole weekend, and then I was like, someone offered me a joint. I was like, this is the moment where weed's going to be really good again for me, isn't it? So I'm going to feel really nice, and it's going to be the classic stone feeling. And I had the fattest toke ever. And I was like, here we go. And then it just the fear just washed over me, and I was 100% convinced that my best mate was going to kill me. Like 100%. I could not get the thought out of my head at all. And the more I tried to stop the thought exacerbated. And when I got in my tent, I was literally like, I was just laying in my tent. I was like waiting for him to open up the tent with a knife to come and stab me. And I was like, this is literal insanity. Wow. And in a sense, I actually appreciated that horrifying experience, because I now understand how paranoid some people actually can be and how they can have these delusions just sober. But yeah. It's always funny with me and my mate. Every time I see my mate's like, yeah, I'm going to fucking kill you tonight, lad. And I'm like, yeah, oh. It's so funny.
That was On only weed, nothing else?
Just literally just cannabis. Literally just cannabis is crazy.
That's crazy.
I know, right? Never happened to me before.
crazy.
That extreme.
I think you can like definitely like, for me, I know that your intention affects it tons, because when I used to like trip heaps, weed wouldn't do, like weed was like made more psychedelic by my, you know, other psychedelic trips, but it wasn't the drug it is now until I was kind of over tripping for like 8 hours at a time. And I was like, how do I make weed a psychedelic? And so I used to have like a whole ritual with like psychedelics where I wouldn't smoke weed for a good 2 weeks. And then the day of, I'd fast and do all this stuff. And then when I was tripping, I would just do, you know, as much weed as I could, go meditate, and then like kind of go as deep as I can. But then when, you know, I was over kind of having these acid trips and stuff, I was like, let me just do this with weed. So I had like this like 1 month, you know, not touching cannabis at all. Finally, like the day came, fasted, smoked as much weed as I could, meditated, and it was just like took me to the same place as like DMT had taken me to. It was like the same entities. It was just continuing the message. And that's why I feel it's strange. It's it is really strange to me. All these different drugs actually at some point started taking me to the same place. And I felt like their unique characteristics would only maintain for the beginning of the trip. But when the trip like started to really kick in, when I started to meditate, or, you know, if I'd taken a high enough dose, it didn't matter what I'd taken. I was going to go to the same place. And that message that I'd been receiving last time from whatever substance I was on, that message was going to continue. So I do think they've got like this unique spirit to them. And I do hear it a lot, like they've got this unique entity to them. But I don't know, in my experience, it's kind of weird. It's like I kind of just meet the same entities no matter what I've taken.
Interesting.
Yeah, I know. It's
well,
strange.
we were talking, weren't we, on I was just going to say, we were talking on that the Tripsers podcast, weren't we, a few weeks ago, about entities. I've actually never actually met an entity or had an experience of it, because, and I almost feel like I had a thought the other day, because I thought I've been experimenting with DMT quite a bit lately, and this thought of a day was like, I feel like my entities, I feel like maybe people have like their own little like squadron of entities that gravitate towards their energies. So I was like, I think my entities are having like a fucking laugh with me. They're like, we know you want to see us, but we're not actually going to show up for ages, but they'll show up at some point when I'll least expect it, because they know that I'm seeking them, searching for them. And funnily enough, when I had that experience of thinking my mate was going to kill me on cannabis, that was the first time I ever thought I was going to meet an entity. I thought it was it's just saying that it's fascinating, the psychedelic headspace that cannabis can get you in. Like I remember, other than my mate trying to kill me, the other big revelation that was like spinning around in my mind was like, the Greys are going to land here, and I'm going to get abducted. Like I'm going to get abducted in this forest. I was like, it's my mind was racing. So it's like all the pieces are coming together. All the pieces are coming together.
You were on a sick
mate.
one,
I was.
dude.
Bro, that's an intense trip.
You were on a sick
I went to the
one.
toilet. I went to the toilet. My mind was racing so much. It was like, this is it. It's now. It's literally going to happen right now. I was like, you're going to turn around, and there he is, little grey man. He's going to shoot you with his laser gun, and he's going to take you up into the spaceship. And then obviously it didn't happen, but my mind was so convinced that it was going to. And also, whenever, I mean, we know for a fact that when you do take psychedelics, imagination can quite literally become reality, can't it? So then I was like,
I think it reveals that reality is your imagination, but as you get higher, you gain more, like when Neo bends the spoon.
No, so
it's realizing that it is a dream, and when you become lucid in the dream, you're able to change it. I think that's the powers, the cities that gurus, that spiritual teachers and stuff develop as they get higher, as they become lucid, or as they awaken. They realize that it's a dream that their consciousness is conducting. And before you wake up from the dream, you're at a level of lucidity that allows you to bend it.
100%, and that's
Yes.
how you hear
I
of these
agree.
people.
I agree.
Yeah, I'm sure you guys have heard stories of yogis around the world being able to actually levitate and perform all these weird supernatural abilities. They've got clairvoyance, telepathy, telekinesis, and all this. And obviously, the materialist world that we live is like, hey, fucking bullshit, man. It's just atoms and that. And it's like, oh, mate, like, it's very, very, very possible. Just keep reading. Just keep. I can't deny the paranormal aspects of reality anymore. I cannot. And not only do I love them, I will admit there is a bias. I find it fun. It's more fun to think about life in a paranormal, mystical sense. But on a level, though, on an actual, genuine, empirical level, you cannot deny that there are things that defy the laws of physics happening all the time. We don't actually fucking know anything.
We call that miracles.
Yeah. Yeah. I think it's almost like, for me, I feel the laws of physics are kind of a measurement of the reality you've imagined. Because I often find it's like, I have this weird thought, and then, like, in fact, it used to happen when I was tripping a lot, where I would have this trip, and then I'd kind of like just get this, like, channel a message or whatever, and then come out of it, and it would be like this, like, this vision, like I'd been shown on the way time works. And it wouldn't really make that much sense to me. It'd be really fragmented, but I'd have like this really like vague idea. And then like 2 days later, some like post on Facebook would come up, like physicists have now discovered like X, Y, and Z. And it would just be like this like perfect layout of kind of what I was shown in the trip. I'd be like, this is too neat, too perfect. It's like either I'm just trying to make sense of what I went through by seeing this article, or like
your mind loves to
it always
rationalize
felt
it.
like
your mind loves to reduce it down.
It does.
Surely there's
It
a
does.
logical explanation for this,
Yeah.
and it's like
I know.
it's like nah. Just admit, just embrace the fact that reality is one fucking strange giant paradox. Like,
Yes.
and all these weird things can happen.
I think that's why there's always those like synchronicities during trips, and that's what I always found was I would, like, when I was early days of tripping, when I had no idea what synchronicities or like the spiritual side of stuff was, I would always like save messaging chicks I was into until I was tripping. Because I'd find that I would just be in this state of like being way more lucid with reality, where, you know, when you message when you're sober, you're like, oh, how are they going to receive my, like, you know, what I've just said? Was I like, you start overthinking it. And I would find that in that process of overthinking, the message I would get back would be like, it would match that energy. And I'd be like, oh, fuck, like I've screwed this one up. When I'd be tripping, I'd be having like these, like, you know, I'd be watching a movie. The movie would just relate to exactly what I was thinking. The music, everything was just like relating to what I was going through. And I would feel that my connection with the outside world was like more obvious. So then I would send this message while I'm in a good mood to all these chicks I was into, because I'd be like, well, I know that they're going to, you know, match this energy. So that was like my early day version of it. But like, you know, as Loka's saying, I do think that is the reason why you're having all those synchronicities and stuff, is it's an insight into your connection with the outside world. It is like you understand there's not a separation between, you know, you and other. It's all one thing. It's all your imagination. It's all a story you're just telling yourself.
Yeah, you imagine the distinction, don't you? You imagine the boundaries, so that you can have.
Yeah.
But that was really interesting you say about how the film was speaking to you. That's happened to me like countless times, but and I could literally write a book, the amount of weird synchronicity I've had on psychoactive substances watching films. But the weirdest one for me ever, that just was like breaking out the matrix or shit, I was on LSD, like it was when Red Dead Redemption 2 came out, literally day one, and me and my mate were playing it, and I had a little party at mine, and ended up taking acid. I don't know the dosage at all, but to me the dosage doesn't even matter. As soon as I get a psychedelic in me, anything's bound to happen. So what ended up happening was that everything was becoming so synchronistic, everything was tying in together, so dreamlike, so poetic in this narrative sense, that the reality started to almost glitch out. And I remember we were playing Red Dead Redemption 2, and there was an achievement. He got my mate was playing it. He got an achievement, a trophy. It was called "This Is the One," and the song "This Is the One" by the Stone Roses was playing downstairs, and he got a trophy that said the exact same thing. And then, of course, when I'd come off the trip and checked the trophy list, there is no trophy called "This Is the One." But I literally saw that in that moment, and that was funny. And in that moment in the trip when I saw that, that was like, okay, it's now ego death mode. Now it's like, you broke. There's no going back to the this construction. So everything was just a whoa. So reality just got as funky as it wanted to. It's really quite bizarre.
What about synchronicities sober?
Oh, yes, synchronicities sober.
Like the craziest ones?
They're fascinating.
Have you ever been haunted by sober synchronicities that it made you
skits out?
Dude, I've had situation. Oh my god!
I've had a few mass. Synchronicity is literally can happen all the time. It's like how aware of them are. Synchronicities happen to everybody. I just think it's like when.
I think synchronicity is the fabric of reality. Everything is made of synchronicity. There isn't a single thing that is random or out of place. Everything is one infinite variable narrative. The universe, one song. The whole universe is just a hyperdimensional sculpture of perfection. And our lifetime is just a small blip within that timeline. And all of our individual experiences are synchronistically tied to each other's, and it's infinitely complex and intricate, and it's perfect. It's elegant, and when you start to awaken to that, it can be so dramatic and terrifying that you want to close yourself off to that magical insight and go back to normal, simply because you don't know what to fucking do with that. Right? It's a absolute surrendering of the separation of self and other. When you go deep into synchronicity, the duality collapses, and you realize that this entire infinity is personal to you. That you're connected with all of it, and
very well said. Well said.
That's true. I think that's why you get so many people who are having these like they believe they're in a psychosis, and like I've actually been messaged by quite a few people who are asking for help because they're like, I had this trip where all my friends were in on this big joke and they were laughing at me because this reality is not real, and like I know I was just tripping, but I can't help but shake this feeling that nothing's real anymore. And like when I go to the shopping center, the person will start saying something that's relating to exactly me. Like, what's happening to me? Am I going schizophrenic? I feel like there are a lot of schizophrenic people who just aren't given the right framework of what's going on. Because I've talked to, there's a schizophrenic content creator who reached out like ages ago, and he was like he had actually listened to the voices, and he was having these experiences that were super similar to what we hear when we're tripping, but he didn't like listen to the doctors, he didn't listen to everyone else. He kind of did listen to his voices, and they were guiding him on the path that he is on at the moment. And they were like, just keep drawing, just keep like doing what you're doing, keep making content, we're going to make you famous. Everyone thought he was like insane, and the dude is famous now. He's got like multi-million viewers, and he's an incredible artist.
When you say the voices, right? Everyone said with schizophrenia, psychosis, that they hear voices. I think that everybody has these voices. What it really is an internal narrative in your mind that sort of subtitles or commentary on your experience moment to moment. And what my practice with meditation is to simply just quiet down that inner narrative and to exist on mute. And that's a very freeing and healthy
God, I
exercise.
made that so badly.
But psychedelics, or especially THC, can amplify the volume of this inner narrative. And then not only is your mind's eye, your third eye, hyper supercharged, now your imagination and your inner narrative are collaborating, and they're sort of flourishing this, and it takes on this sort of divine creative aspect where the things that it starts to create are just gorgeous. So it's hard to ignore it. You can't possibly ignore it, right?
Yeah.
It's profound. It's way more profound than the sober day-to-day existence, right? Now, the tricky thing is when your consciousness slips into this, it accesses this place without substances. You have no choice. So I think that's what we call schizophrenia or psychosis, is when you go deep into that waking dream of inner narratives and projecting that on the external world. I think the external world is a direct reflection of the internal state. That's why set and setting is so important for psychedelic trips. Is because you're about to open up that interfacing with behind the scenes. You're basically taking like, in a video game when you go in story mode and there's a story that's laid out for you to play, you're realizing when you take psychedelics that you turn on the creative mode, and now you're controlling the whole thing. What it really tells you is that it's always in creative mode, but your ego is a protective mechanism to make it seem like you're
in survival
just
mode,
floating within an existing narrative. And it is kind of
because survival mode in Minecraft is more fun because there's stakes, isn't there? But it's all imaginary, isn't it? At any point in the survival mode, you can literally type in whatever, go into God mode, and reality is very much of like an infinite video game, isn't it? Why do we have video games? Because reality is a giant infinite sandbox, and even the way they design games is so fascinating. Like how, in a game where you've got like your cone of vision, your cone of perception, and everything outside of the cone of perception is just like data that isn't like actualized, and then when you perceive it, it crystallizes, doesn't it? And that's the most efficient way for an engine to process that information, and that's exactly what the universe is doing.
Well, there's I think it's so interesting, the terminology that humans have used to describe reality. In the past, people have used the term Maya or illusion to describe form and matter, right? And I think even your inner dialogue, the voices that you consider a part of you, what point of awareness is conscious of those voices, right? If you're aware of the voices as a phenomenon, then surely you aren't the voices, because you're looking at them from beyond them. You're perceiving them. You're witnessing them. So you're witnessing a phenomenon, right? Who is it that's witnessing?
I think it might...
That witnesser, that point of consciousness, they describe that as Brahman, God, right?
Right.
And everybody deep down who's witnessing reality is that same point of consciousness, but the ego is the mechanism that convinces the witnesser, hey, you know what? This Maya, this matter, this illusion is real, so you better take it seriously.
Yes.
But then liberation or nirvana is transcending that boundary and saying, no, I see it all as a perfect game, it's beautiful, but I won't get sucked in by how convincing it is. Because this whole experience, this entire existence, is designed in such a way that is so convincing that it's very difficult to awaken out of it. And I think that really is the challenge that this dimension is built for. It's sort of a testing facility to train consciousness how to liberate itself.
Yeah. Okay, now you hit the nail on the metaphysical head there.
I think it's like overcoming fear. I think it's the reality is we all probably could awaken to what we really are if we deep down wanted to, but none of us actually want to. I think it's like we're kind of like crazy people inside a dark cave, and we're shouting and we're hearing our echoes, and then we are so alone and we are so afraid to be alone that we convince ourselves the echoes are something else or somebody else, you know, and that's what it is. You know, these voices we're hearing, it's all just our echo, but we're terrified to admit that to ourselves. I think because Vivec, you shared that trip report on your page first, and then I shared it as well, that one where the guy had 5 grams of mushrooms, meditated, and then awoke to being God, to being the creator. And he loved it at first. He was creating all these realities and just like enjoying doing whatever he wanted inside them, until he got to a point where he couldn't forget the fact that he'd created every reality, and he couldn't immerse himself in it anymore. He couldn't submerge himself in it. He couldn't like convince himself that, you know, when he won the Oscar for best performance, he had actually done something to deserve this. He knew each time he had created this, and that everybody celebrating was just his echo, just his voice.
And that's the beauty of the illusion.
And so he became and he became terrified.
To separateness.
The beauty
Exactly. So
of separation.
he literally created a reality which was, you know, like this world. And then he just kept telling himself, it's real, it's real, it's real, until he didn't return to that void. He just stayed there. And he was like, all right, deep down, I know this isn't real, but I'm just going to keep playing this game and pretend it is. And I like, when I think about it, like, am I ready to be alone? Am I ready to admit to myself that I'm just talking to myself? I want to say yes, but the reality is probably not, and that's why I'm still here.
Yes,
you know?
we love to say yes, but we wouldn't be here if we really said yes. We'd be in the infinite mind, wouldn't we, all together?
Exactly.
And like what you said, Loka, it's a training facility, isn't it? The Earth dimension is a training field for consciousness to work through its karma, burn through it, and keep growing, and because consciousness wants to keep getting greater and greater and greater, because nothing can stop it, because it's limitless. Every single thing in your life is training you up. It's quite. Other day I had this really mad thought about, like, you know, obviously we've got everyone the classic philosophical question like free will versus determinism. And I was like, you know what? Literally, I am basically just living out like a movie. My life is literally like a movie. Like the ego thinks it's got control over everything, like, but no, I'm actually going to, every single little thing that's going to happen in my life was always going to happen, because before I was like a thing, this material thing, I'd engineered it in some infinite hive mind and I played it out, and this is me playing it out, and that can send a lot of people. This is the thing about psychedelics. This can send a lot of people insane, derail their life, and it has very, very serious risks. But if you manage to see the beauty within it and really integrate these insane mystical experiences, it can make your life absolutely amazing.
Yes.
Well, based on what Jack said, he was talking about basically the topic of readiness of transcendence, right? How you can, with psychedelics, they can be an automatic catapult to throw you into these extremely high states of awareness. But then there's the question of, are you actually ready for that high state of awareness? And if you're not, if you still have the karmic attachment to separateness, to the illusion, that's your cradle. That's where you're comfortable. That's all you know to be comfortable in. Everything else is no man's land, right? You'd rather forget that you are all of it and return back to that separate state in the human form than accept the truth, right? Now, I think that it's amazing. The human body, if you listen carefully enough to it, is the user manual to transcendence. All of the chakras teach you everything you need to know to integrate, to be ready to transcend. So if you're still stuck in the lowest chakra, which is survival, fear, right? Then how on earth could you fathom being ready to be everything? It's like, no, you're skipping to the end of the game from the beginning. You're level 1 and you're going against a level 100 boss battle, and you're like, oh, I can't defeat it.
Yeah, it's like using cheat engine on Dark Souls, isn't it? It's like, mate, you've completely missed the point of the whole game, and there's no satisfaction. There's no satisfaction. There was nothing learned. I've had a Kundalini awakening. This is when I first started getting into chakras and that, where I felt literally on a physical level felt it was my very, very first mystical experience. I've been tripping for a few years, just because I got into psychedelics just through partying and raving. And then literally just at this house party, and all of these little things, synchronistic things were happening. I had no idea what synchronicity was back then, but then it was like it just kept building and building, and then literally there was this energy force at the root of my spine, quite literally the root chakra, going straight up. It went through up into up to the crown chakra, and then I exploded out. And it was an infinite orgasm, like a genuine orgasm. And obviously, I had absolutely no idea. There was still a bit of the physical ego there. So obviously, I was like, "Oh my god, have I literally combed myself in my mate's house?" But funnily enough, after the fact, it turned out I'd actually pissed myself. So I was like, "Oh well, that's usually how it goes." But and that was the point of no return for me. That was I was literally like, "Oh my god, I'm a rational, logical atheist. I've got all sorted. I've read On the Origin of Species 5 times and all this shit." And then when you are directly experiencing the breakdown of reality, you cannot deny it anymore. And this is why I think the best psychedelic scientists are the ones who take them themselves and study them, because I respect the scientific approach to psychedelics. Of course, it's brilliant, it's fascinating, it needs to be done. But some of these scientists, I bet a lot of them, let's just say like Neil deGrasse Tyson and them sort of ones, they're obviously scared of breaking down the paradigm, aren't they? They're scared of the fact that because something deep within them knows that they're wrong, and the ego's like, no, I'm not wrong, I'm always right. So that prevents them from seeing the truth. But they will have to see the truth at some point, whether it's in a trip or whether it's when you literally die. It's gonna happen someday, man.
Those scientists would hate to admit that everything they're trying to discover has not only been discovered, but it's been explored, documented, and discussed for thousands of years. It throws all of their PhDs and papers out the window when people are exploring the quantum states, as opposed to with the magnifying glass looking at it on one sliver dimension. People are experiencing directly across multiple dimensions. Like if Neil deGrasse Tyson took ayahuasca or a breakthrough dose of DMT,
big old fucking schizo.
You really think that he would have the same? However, the ego is so. The ego is tricky. Such a hard.
The ego
worker.
Is the devil. It's a It's a tricky bastard.
No. I think that the ego is extremely useful, and that most people don't know how to use it. And I have this thing that I tell a lot of people is that we have egos. We might as well sculpt them.
That's a great thing to say. I actually made that video a few weeks ago where I was like, instead of I kept retitling it for some reason because I'm autistic, but it was like it is, instead of trying to kill your ego, why not cultivate a healthier one? Because I've just gotten to that point now. I've got to that point in my psychedelic journey now. I was like, he was like, well, we've got to kill the ego, we've got to stop the ego, it's the devil. And it's like, yes, the ego can be the devil and it's a trickster, but it's like, you know what, you can turn your egoic separate self into something amazing. Look at look at celebrities. Look at like Robin Williams and these charismatic people. Like, these are great egos, aren't they? They're brilliant egos, positive, loving, funny, unbelievable egos. Then you've got the devilish egos that are literally like serial killers and tyrants and that. So it's like,
Ice Spice.
oh, you got the Ice Spice ego. Which one do you want to be?
Well, I think it's a matter of, we all have egos, right? And egos are servants. Now, your ego can either serve the devil, or it can be dedicated to serving the highest possible potential, the most loving, the most compassionate possible direction that you know. And as a matter of fact, if you're listening carefully to, I call it the whisper, right? If you're listening carefully, it's telling you what to do. But then you can ignore it and say, well, I'm not in the mood to transcend right now. I'm not in the mood to level up. I'm just going to do that tomorrow. And today I can participate in my gluttonous, or, you know, the 7 deadly sins. You kind of like max them out, you know, and you're like, that's karma.
Yeah.
That's attachment to lower vibrations. And a part of the process is not judging that.
Oh, 100%.
Seeing the necessity of level 1, the necessity of level 5. Until you thoroughly experience it, not shy away from it, not be scared, but truly go through it, those low vibrations, then you face them and you can integrate them and carry on to level 10. But it's like, people want to say they're on level 10, but they're clearly demonstrating and acting out action. Action is karma. It's not words, it's action. Their being, their expression of being is still in a state that correlates with self-service and self-preservation, as opposed to something a little bit bigger. So I think it's good not to demonize anything, and to embrace it as perfect and work with it reasonably, you know?
That's a great point about the whispers.
Even I think, the devil is the greatest guru. He tells you exactly what not to do, and you do it anyway.
I'll fucking do it again.
Yes, yeah.
I was just going to say about the whisper.
I think it's like...
Go on, Trip. Whip.
No, you're right, bro.
I was just going to say, it just sparked something in me then when you said about the whispers. I'm going to start using this terminology, thank you very much, but I'll make sure to give a disclaimer. And so every time, obviously I'm a recovering ket addict, and I noticed there was this whisper in my head. There was like the purity, the eureka moment, the clarity of mind, where I'd be like, what are you actually doing to yourself? Like, is this really in your best interest? And it would be there, but it was the shallowest voice, like the voice with the lowest tone, but it was saying the deeper stuff, and the heaviest voice was like, nah, let's fucking do it, let's get the lines out, let's get the lines, get the bags in, and all this. And then now that I'm getting control over my own mind, say if I do like relapse, what ends up happening is I might because it is a fucking hard journey. It's a hard journey recovering. I'll say I'll relapse, and I'll like unconsciously go on autopilot, go and meet the deal or whatever, and I'll bite it, and then the whisper comes in, instead of a whisper, it becomes the actual purity of mind. It's like, why are you doing this? And then immediately the purity of mind makes me take the bag and just get rid of it, and I'm like, whoa, okay, this is actually me aligning with like my highest self, man. It's just, and you got to put more energy into that.
When I say the whisper, my brother said something very wise to me a few weeks ago. He said, first it's a whisper, then it's a push, then it's a shout, then it's a car crash, then it's death.
Oh my God.
God gives you so many messages, so many chances. That's grace.
Yeah, man.
Right? God, you get so many whispers until it gets louder and louder and louder. And that's basically the universe saying,
wake the fuck up.
You got to get your shit together. You're a grown
get
up.
Shit started.
You've had awakenings. We've shown you what the deal is, but you're not integrating. You're running from it. So you're perpetuating karma. There's a quote from the Bible that basically says, he who knows God but does not go after God is forever damned. It's essentially saying, if you know the truth, if you know the highest vision, and you're not going after it, bro. And also another thing that Ram Dass says, he said the higher you get, the harder you fall.
Right.
And it's absolutely true.
Yeah. Well,
As
I think, I
you
guess, if
awaken,
you're...
the stakes, the karmic stakes, just get higher and higher. And really, it's a task that only God could transcend.
Yeah.
So to transcend karma, you need infinite wisdom, you need infinite courage, infinite willpower. So that's what the chakras in the body are teaching you as you're going up. You're transcending fear, you're transcending lust, you're learning about love. Then you get into the powers and the third eye opens. And then once you've integrated all of that, you're ready to transcend the three-dimensional world, and you go into the fourth and fifth and sixth. And that's why when people break through on DMT, they are visiting these higher dimensions of beings that are infinitely complex and wise. It's like, bro, it's...
Yeah.
I think all of this stuff is so damn obvious. If you
Oh
really...
yeah, I can't deny
obvious.
anymore. I just feel it. Just
I know.
So
Yeah.
right in front.
Yeah.
I think it's like, with the ego, like everything's ego, like this reality that we're in, it's everything's ego. That's what, I guess it's such a vague term, but I think it's what makes you separate from others. That's kind of what I feel it is. And so the story that you're living, it's a product of being separate from the things around you. So it's like everything you're going to see is ego. And I think it's kind of training wheels to get you to be mimicking what you need to be doing once you've transcended ego. So it's kind of like a lot of us will be good members of society because we want to impress our friends. Like we want to make lots of money for ourselves for selfish reasons, but in the process of doing that, we create this service that the world really needed and we benefit other people. We're kind of doing what we do if we recognized ourselves as being one form and one thing and we loved ourselves. It's like the actions are speaking louder than the motivations. The actions are really the same. So it's kind of like in that way, I think it's training wheels to once you've transcended ego. And I think for that reason, it'd be like if you knew how to ride a bike and then all of a sudden you just randomly kept crashing and you're like, holy crap, I don't know why this is happening. I need to put the training wheels back on. It's embarrassing. You'd be embarrassed to be like riding around on training wheels again. I think it's kind of like that. And I've been experiencing that myself where, because I don't trip as often as I used to, I think it's a little bit easier for me to get sucked into the narrative, a bit more. Yeah. Whereas I used to always have these constant reminders of like, this is what you are, or like, whatever. And so, I think the last times I've never had a bad trip that scared me away from tripping. Other than my very first trips, but they obviously didn't scare me away from tripping. But my last trips were, none of them were bad, but I just got the sense that I'm not meant to be doing this right now. Like I'm meant to come back to this at some point. Yeah. So I think I'm in this process of kind of fulfilling my responsibilities potentially and doing what I love whilst also remembering the truth, or my truth at least, as I navigate.
That's really interesting you say that, because I'm in a similar position, and the universe gave me the biggest synchronicity possibly of my entire life the other day, right? So I say I've been experimenting with DMT, and what's funny about DMT is it's something that I've never ever sought out. I've always ended up using it through some coincidence at a festival.
It comes to you. You don't go out seeking it. It finds its way right in front of you.
Do you know what's funny about this, right?
Yeah.
So I ended up getting a pen, and I was like, oh, is this the moment where I have control over the DMT? So I was having a few blast-offs and that, and I was experimenting with it very consciously, and sort of even just...
Whoa. Don't just gloss out. You had a few blast-offs?
Yeah, I was just consciously using it, basically, just like once a month. And then...
Would you go for like?
I mean, I say
or?
blast off. I'm saying I didn't go the full way, but I had a few.
So you were experimenting with like lower
I had
doses.
some peak experiences, but not quite full breakthroughs. And this is where it was funny. This is why it's funny, because the other night where I was like, okay, man, I'm ready. Let's meet them. And I was like consciously ready. I was like, let's do it. Let's break through. And I went to the DMT pen. And what happened? I pulled the top of it, and it all fell apart. All the liquid came out, and that was the universe telling me that I wasn't ready. and I wasn't, and I need to let it go, and that there's other things I need to do other than explore these astral realms. I've had mental mystical experiences, and I feel like I just need to just stop chasing them, and that's why I don't really trip very often, to be honest. And I find that a lot of my audience actually messages me, and they're like, "Yo, Vivec, what are you getting on this weekend?" And I'm like, well, nothing, because I really just want to chill the fuck out, because I've been doing it for like 10 years. But I'm so in tune with my own mind. I know when the time is right now. I know when it's a conscious decision and not a like an or ego driven decision,
right,
of like, oh, I need to escape, or I want to have some pleasure.
You're playing with an infinite mind. That's not something to necessarily play with. That's something to interface with reasonably. And what was the thing you just said? I blanked, bro. You said something that...
No, don't ask me. My short-term memory's
turned
fried
on a light bulb
sniffing
for me.
spaghetti man.
Oh, I figured out what it was. We're on Earth. This clearly is our curriculum. I think that mystical experiences are good to gather context of the significance and the importance of this life, but all of the curriculum is here. If you're listening carefully enough, you don't need psychedelics. Maybe part of your curriculum in your incarnation is to take mushrooms, or is to blast off on... Maybe that's necessary steps. So be it. But all the mushrooms have been telling me the past 2 years is, finish this project, clean the house, make more money here, improve this relationship with it. All of it is worldly. My curriculum is here, and I have to honor that. Otherwise, it's like, it's learning to hang up the phone.
Did you get the message? I got it.
And just because you hang up the phone doesn't mean it's permanent. You may come back to it later on.
Yes.
But
we said this, didn't we, in our first time we were talking in a Psychonauts podcast, and I was like, that's the extension of the Alan Watts quote, isn't it? At some point, right, if you're really in tune with yourself, your pure mind knows, right, like, let's just let it go and actually get the rest of life sorted. Stop losing yourself in these states, because if you keep doing it, you are going to get your ass handed back to you in quite a visceral way. And I think that's where a lot of these nightmare trips
the hyper
slap. Yeah, you told me about that the other day. I was like, oh my god, as if I didn't know what that was. And then I was like, what?
That's crazy. You haven't read about that. There's some sick trip reports about the hyper slap on Arrowhead. I
was disappointed in myself. But we've learned and we've grown. And it just, it really is. It is. You've just got to get in tune. Like I really try and help people the best I can. But honestly, the best piece of advice I can give to anyone is like, literally just try and hone into this, like hone into that. Like you can get a lot of external help. There is external help to be had, but really just consciously sit down and contemplate and really sift through the bullshittery that your mind spins and get through to the actual mind. Go from like the lowercase mind to the uppercase mind. Like I look at, I've said this before again, like, I look in the mirror and I look at myself and I literally talk to myself like, this is usually after I've bought some ket or something. I'm like, are you actually doing the right thing for your body, mind and soul right now? And you actually say that and put it into action, and then it generates a positive outcome. Because in the other universe, I wouldn't have done that. I would just be, all right, okay, forget about the pure mind. The real mind is the ego mind. Oh yes, let's keep going, doing the same thing over and over and over again, and keep stagnating because it's comfortable. It's like, nah, just fucking take a breather and look at yourself and see what you're doing.
Yeah,
I think it's always. Go ahead.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, is your window open, bro? Loka? Done. I think there was like a locust or something chirping hell loud.
I thought it was coming from your end, because obviously you're in Australia, and I was like, oh, maybe that's just how it sounds all the time. But you're both from funky areas.
We don't even have locusts here.
We don't get it in the UK. All you get is just cows, like, and chickens in it. That's about all I have to worry about.
Yeah, I mean, we don't have much
think,
either. It's like, it's all pretty basic animals, unless you go into the bush.
A big step to take as psychedelic community, as people who are on the front lines of exploring psychedelics and sharing our thoughts with the world, right? I think we're coming across a new era where the importance of integration is coming up, where it's not really about tripping. It's about learning why tripping is helpful.
Yeah.
And it's helpful for context on how to optimize your mind to then exist in this dimension. And something I've been really doing is going outside, exercising. How? It's a hypothetical question,
Touching grass.
but it's how here am I? How here am I? How willing is my consciousness? How willing am I to fully immerse myself in this realm only? Because my whole life, I've been so hyper-intellectual that I'm living up here all the time.
Tell me, man.
And I barely feel like I'm here on Earth.
Right.
So
That's
I'm
my
like,
current struggle.
oh,
And that's something I'm learning to do, definitely. This has been a struggle my whole life, been constantly... my mind is so overactive, it's insane. But it's hilarious. Like, I'll go through waves of, like, literal, like, complete dysphoria, chaos, like, in my mind, and then on the other end I'll wake up the next day and it'll be like complete peace, no thoughts at all, like there's some serious screws loose in my brain in a good way, because I feel like in a sense you've got to be a bit insane to be a good person, because you've got to see insanity to realize what it is and then integrate it. But a big lesson for me is just, like you say, Loka, like, why am I spending so much time in here when there's all this really beautiful stuff around me? I've just been getting into I've just been learning guitar, and I was like, for years and years and years and years, I was living in my mind like, there is no point getting the guitar, because when you pick it up you won't be able to play it and you won't get anywhere and blah blah blah, and like that just seriously autistic robotic thought loop process was controlling my life until I just had the eureka moment where I was like, oh, okay, it's pure consciousness mode, let's go and actualize that thing that needs to happen. And then now I'm really understanding how to just let that autistic robot go. So I'm really starting to push myself, break new boundaries. I was going to Japan in September for quite a long time.
For what?
Just literally, I just wanted to get out of the UK and just to go to another country. And I mean, I'm already a massive weeaboo anyway, so I was like, let's go to Japan. And I feel like my whole life's been leading up to it as well. I actually had a really great conversation with Meta Angel, who you had a conversation with Tripwhip.
Oh, yeah.
And we were talking on my channel, and she was talking about how she has an affinity to, like, the pyramids and Egypt. And it made me self-reflect. I was like, what is this affinity about Japan? Like, it's not just the fact that I literally am, like, a weeaboo. It's the fact that every single little point in my life has been leading me up to going to Japan. And I feel like that's where I'll finally be, like, at peace of mind. That's where I feel like I'll actually fit in. I don't fit in here. I do not fit in England where I live at all. It's like an alien walking the streets. I find it amusing, but I just realise it's not bringing out my highest potential. And in a really, really trippy sense, I actually, in my first mystical experience, my Kundalini awakening on LSD, I had a vision of the future of me sat on Mount Fuji and looking over Japan and thinking back to the moment where I broke through. And I'm actually going to actualise that in the next few months, which is really crazy.
Dope.
I know it's fucked, isn't
it? Yeah, I think it's an interesting one though, because what makes you feel like an alien in the UK?
I mean, the UK is suffering. It's suffering a lot with an identity crisis. We've got our cultures, like what even is British culture? Is it vape shops? It's roadmen. It's like there's no sense of unity. Everyone just. I mean, on an economical level, like our country's seriously suffering. Everyone's on drugs, and I empathise with everybody, but I also feel as like, oh, this is actually like this isn't where I'm meant to be. Like, I need to leave this place to let it fix itself, and I need to go somewhere. And like, I'm on some weird like spiritual journey where I think like, I'll go to. Go on.
I've had such similar thoughts, and I've spent years thinking about this exact thing. This is a really important topic, actually. It's about participation on Earth, right? I don't think so. Think about it like a multiplayer game. Let's say all of the population is on one island. Let's just hypothetically, the entire population of this multiplayer server is on one island. And there's wars happening, politics, drama. And some people take the renunciate route, and they go off on some other island alone and meditate next to the waterfall. They're actually just quitting. They're not really doing anything to help the people, right? So I think retreating might be the wrong approach. But I've been taking the approach of, okay, let me temporarily retreat.
That's what I was going to say.
Find a sanctuary, become the best fucking version of, become the coolest Loka the world has ever seen. And then go participate, and then I might have some sort of power to change something.
That's exactly what I'm doing.
Otherwise, I'm like some level 1 NPC trying to... vote and trying to change the political narrative and support the cause. It's like, you're not doing anything, buddy. Why don't you go make something of yourself and become something that people will actually respect and listen to? And then you can take that power and do something positive.
Spot on.
As opposed to just retreating indefinitely, permanently.
I know that my ego mind or whatever is like, let's get away to Japan. I need to get away from it all. Let's get out of here, man. And it's like, I know for a fact, I'm so in tune with my highest self. I was like, no, what I'm really doing is I'm going to Japan. I'm going to heal. I'm going to heal from my ketamine addiction. I'm going to become a better person. I'm going to experience life in a whole different way. I'm going to take my YouTube into other areas. The fact that I can go and film beautiful temples and nature, and that will inspire people even deeper than me just walking around fucking northwest England, which is quite nice, but it's not quite Japan. So I'll go there and I'll learn everything, and then I'll come back because I know that I need to come back and then give the gift that I have learned. Because you can't run away from yourself. You can't run away from reality because you are reality, and it's always going to come back and find you. So there is no escape. You've got to just keep learning and growing and helping and evolving.
At what point do you go to Japan and you find yourself there, and the first week is cool, and then you settle in and nothing's changed? And then you find that, that I'm the problem. It's not my environment. See, when you're high and everything's synchronistic and you're in the heart chakra, everything is love, everything's perfect. There's not a flaw around you.
I think
all of the crime and all of the drama is perfect.
On a personal level.
So I think it's more about your state of consciousness. However, in a more practical sense, going to this place, sick, you might actually find that it's more conducive to learning and productivity and there are multiple factors of it, but going off in a place that's more conducive to your personality, I fully support that.
I think on a personal level,
motion.
Just for me going over, because I had this insight last year when I went to Croatia for 2 weeks because I've been addicted to Ket for over 2 years, and I noticed that it actually is a big part of it. Obviously, I know I am the problem. Who is the person getting it? I really have control. I can have control over myself if I want. Well, healthy control. I can be the pure mind if I want to be. But on a pragmatic level, I've noticed when I went to Croatia for 2 weeks, and there was no. I mean, the minute I got there was no thinking about Ket. I am very, very susceptible to my environment, and I'm telling you now, England is the Kettiest country in the world. It's very hard to get away. And Japan is possibly the least Kettiest place in the world. And but it's not. This is the thing. I'm not going. I need to go and heal my addiction over there. I was like, I just know that it's part of my journey as a consciousness to go there and understand myself more, and then come back and learn the lessons. And also, even just on a scientific level, if you have an addiction to anything, like they say, 2 weeks is like the sweet spot, isn't it, for when your mind starts making new neural pathways. You start tricking your mind back into, well, not even tricking, you're just removing that habitual training. You're training your mind.
It's reprogramming.
So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to go train my mind, and when I come back, well, let's hope I don't get on ketamine. But I understand what you're saying. Where it is you do have to have the clarity of mind at all times, though.
It's almost like you gotta integrate whatever you learn over in Japan when you return. It's literally a trip, and I think it's like in the same way that you don't want to get lost in psychedelic trips. You can't really stay there forever, but they can give you that perspective, a temporary perspective on life. I think that's probably what this can definitely bring you. It is an extremely different culture, and practically speaking, I think I'm sure you're gonna love it, but. Obviously, I do think there's truth to what you're saying as well, Loka. I think,
I know I had that moment.
There was a film, I can't remember what it's called.
I know I had that moment when I'm in Japan, and I'll think back on our conversation when I was like, because obviously that I know how my ego mind works. But they're like, right, we've done it, we've fixed it, it's gonna happen, man. We're self-actualizing.
Excuses,
and then,
dude.
Right.
It's like an excuse engine. It'll generate new excuses.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
Yeah. Because wherever you are right now, what's causing you this pain, I guess this is almost like your greatest opportunity to love, as cheesy as this sounds, but it's like a greatest opportunity to love those sides of yourself as well. I do disability work on the weekend, and I'm not probably allowed to talk about what the clients have done, but one of the clients has done some fucking intense stuff. He's got no empathy, and it's intense. And when I started with him, I had no idea. I was really manipulated into thinking he was just kind of somebody else, and then some actions made me realize he's not that. And the things he was doing were the things that I judged the most. They were like the most, in my eyes, when I see a character in a movie do these sort of things, I'm super anti them straight away. I hate them, literally. And all of a sudden I've got this kid who's barely hit puberty, and he's committing the actions of the things that I've hated the most in my life, and yet it's my responsibility to kind of look after him. And the best way, practically speaking, for him to heal and recover is for me to give him love and support and believe in him and these sort of things. And I really did find that this job has been just really intense shadow work, kind of learning how to love these darker sides of myself, and through that I've been able to still love work, even though I'm having to look over my shoulder sometimes to make sure I'm gonna be safe. I do I think
that's what makes it so rewarding though.
I think it is. I think what you're doing, it's the right step to do. That's what you need to get that perspective and stuff.
Yep.
And you might never want to return, but you'll probably find that those sides of yourself creep back up almost in one way or another, even if it's just on the news.
100%. Yes, it's not just as easy as I went there and I was fixed. It just literally if life was that easy, well, we wouldn't be here. Life is not easy. It's complex. It's complicated. It's like games, isn't it? It's what are the best video games? The best video games are the hardest games, aren't they? The ones that you have to learn the systems and you have to master them and work. Why is Dark Souls? Why was Dark Souls a phenomenon? Because it was the first game in a very long time that seriously challenged you like the classic days where all these games were coming around that era. And even now it's you've got the map marker, you've got the quest objective, and they tell you where to go. It's look at Morrowind. Funny enough, obviously I'm called Vivec. Look at Morrowind, and there's no map markers. They don't even tell you where to go. Through the UI, the characters tell you via text, and you've got to figure it out yourself by actually exploring the world. Skip to Fallout 4, and it's hey man, you gotta go over here, and they literally point there, and then there's a giant flashing icon to tell you where to go, and everything's just signposted. It's we're being and what is the more rewarding experience? It's playing Morrowind, isn't it? That's what it's like. I want my life to be like Morrowind. I don't want my life to be like Call of Duty Black Ops 4, where it's just fucking on rails or whatever.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the thing is, most of us are kind of playing that easier game. You know, it's like most of us are kind of, we're told by our parents what to do, and then we're just like, yeah, that's my mission. That's what I'm going to do. They pointed me in this direction. I'm going to play this game. And that's kind of why you come out and it's not so rewarding in the end, because it wasn't the game you wanted to play. It's nowhere near as difficult. It's a lot easier. It's a lot simpler, but it's far less rewarding because it doesn't fulfill what you're kind of truly capable of, I think, which is why these Dark Souls games are so much better.
Yeah.
But I wanted to ask, just because it's easy for me to turn into a clip, what's your favorite trip report that you've shared, Vivec?
Oh, that's a great question. The one that immediately comes to mind before I even have to like think about it is the Nexus of Life trip report, the DMT trip report. That it had quite a lot of views a few years ago. I had to take it down actually due to a copyright strike and re-edit it and re-upload it, and it didn't explode again like that. But honestly, check that out, the Nexus of Life DMT trip report. The way that man articulated his experience is just mind-blowing. It's just genuinely, it's ineffable. Like, it's beyond words. Me trying to describe the profundity of that report is a disservice to it. The only way you can understand it is to experience it, and that's the report that made me fall in love with trip reports. I was like, it's genuinely an art form, isn't it? Trip reporting is genuinely an art form, because I get so many submissions. And I think people obviously notice that I do tend to cater towards Erowid reports because they are curated, they're better written. But then I'll get, surprisingly, someone will put my Vivec Discord, like a very talented writer who follows my work. I'm like, oh, I'll pick that. So in a sense, I do cherry pick reports, but I want, because I'm looking for the best articulated experience, one that's like, well, it took like a few times, it was fucking weird, man. Like, and that's never gonna go on, is it? Like, but
I know, I get so many of those as well.
But the problem is sometimes with trip reports is that you can't please everyone. Everyone's like, well, this was just ChatGPT making a psychedelic experience for itself or whatever. Like, it's like, oh man, you can't win. And that this guy literally is just a creative writer and he made it all up. It's like, well, I don't know. When I read these, I've read so many trip reports. The way these people describe it, and that Nexus of Life one, you can tell he actually experienced that. He didn't just decide, well, you know what, today I'm going to write a really profound trip report and pretend it was real. Like, that's ridiculous. Why would anybody do that? Like, I can tell what's a real trip report and what's not, and the
best ones, I find they're like mini trips in and of themselves. Like, if it's really well written as well, they know how to create a bridge between what they've experienced and what you've experienced. Like, I know whenever I find I'm reading a trip report and then it affects me, like that one that we were talking about before, the 5 gram mushroom trip report. There's been other ones though, like this dude who was like living his life over and over again, like after taking or getting spiked with like a ridiculous dose of acid. He just like had to live his entire life on repeat, just like for 1,000 times. And these trips, when I'm reading them and the way they describe them, like, it changes the way I actually look at life. So you know that, like, and it changes though because it resonates with something that, like, I've gone through. It's like almost waking up a memory from my trips, and I wonder if I've actually gone through it. If it's, you know, I mean, I know deep down I've gone through it, but you know what I mean. I've actually had that experience and then forgotten about it. But for me, those are by far the best trips. And I find also, like, I get a lot of people who kind of critique me for sharing just bad trips. Like, a lot of people say, you only share like bad trips on your page, like you're doing the psychedelic message a disservice. And I'm like, they're not actually bad trips. Like, if you listen to my reports and you think that I'm sharing a bad experience, that's probably because you'd react negatively to that trip. Like, most of the reports I share, like, I try to end them with like a positive, you know, silver lining as well. But the people who are reacting badly to them, they just weren't ready for what psychedelics are truly capable of. You know, they were just thrown into a place that they were not prepared for, and that's what makes the experience terrible. And I think it's better that people know what psychedelics are capable of, because like I'll see lots of comments where, you know, people are like, oh my God, like I would never want to go through this. And I'm like, well, it's a good thing you heard this trip then. It's a good thing, because you probably have a bad experience and then be anti-drugs for the rest of your life.
That's the service.
But if you hear the story and you're like, yeah, exactly. If you hear like a story and the guy was like, time was, you know, going in reverse and I started freaking out, and you hear that and you're like, well, I wouldn't freak out. That would just be like interesting to me. I'd enjoy that. Then you probably know that tripping, you know, you're catered to tripping. You would probably enjoy the experience more, and you're probably a lot more ready than most others.
That's why I think they're so valuable. Yeah, that's really what the whole mission is with my channel. And the whole reason I started, because obviously I've been doing YouTube for ages. I've been on YouTube since 2009. I've gone through so many different phases and chapters of Vivec. I mean, it wasn't always called Vivec. But it was in COVID during lockdown, and I was listening to Tales from the Trip, his videos, and I was like, oh, well, I'm a psychonaut myself. I've read a lot of Erowid. I love looking at other people's experiences. So then naturally fell down the rabbit hole of like, oh, I bet there's someone narrating them on YouTube. That'd be pretty cool. I like audiobooks. So I saw Tales from the Trip. I was like, oh, this is sick. That's awesome. And then I went to Someone That's No One and Blurry, and then I've written my own trip reports. In fact, one of mine is on Erowid. It's called Nothing to Hide on the LSD section, and I sent that to Someone That's No One. And in a very interesting twist of fate, I was like, oh, surely he'll read this out. This is the craziest story ever. And he didn't read it. And then I had the eureka moment where I was like, well, I've literally got a YouTube channel. Why don't I just do it myself? And then here we are, which is very, very weird. But it just shows how there was obviously a niche. Like I saw in my mind, I was like, okay, there's a lot of trip reports on YouTube, but it's mainly about people like taking, I don't know, like meth and going crazy. I was like, but there's no mystical like God realization awakening reports, which are the best ones. And I was like, oh my God, as if that isn't there. So I think that's why my content ended up popping off, because it filled a gap that was sorely lacking that content. And obviously my channel, look for it, it's all I just love the mystical reports. They're the most interesting to me, rather than I took acid and I fell out of a window, or it was shit or whatever.
Same. What's the scariest aspect of trips that you've read about? Because, you know, there's obviously reoccurring places that people will visit, like you see it in different trip reports, they're describing the same thing. What's like the scariest aspect of trips you've read?
I think the ones, because I've read a lot of trip reports, and I will admit I'm a big horror buff as well. I love horror, the terrible trip reports. I have a nice balance on my channel. I like to mix it around. I don't think we should, like you were saying before, I think it's very silly when people say you're denouncing the beauty of psychedelics by focusing on negativity. It's like, no, you need to have the whole spectrum to understand the whole, to grok the whole thing. And the thing that does give me the chill, the one that really gives me the chills, is when people take like Datura and then someone just walks in the room and like looks at them and then just like stands there. That freaks me out. Or like, the one that really creeps me out, the one of the common threads in them delirium reports is when they'll be sat, because obviously when they're on the delirium they actually forget that they've taken the drug a lot of the time, don't they? When the whole family and everybody they've ever known walks in and they start like clapping in like that really weird sort of like sinister Machiavellian sense, that freaks me out. And I sort of had a bit of go on. No, sorry, I've had like experiences. You were talking before about when you tripped, and where you like your mates are, you feel like your mates are in on the joke and that. And I've had that on acid, where you get that Truman Show effect. And I was like, I remember I was at Boomtown and I was having I was on acid, and not even that much, but I feel like, again, settings for me, the dose doesn't matter. It's like the setting actually influences my trip way more. Like the things going on that I'm experiencing can take my trip can take like a 100 microgram dose to feel like a fucking 5-MeO DMT experience. So I was at Boomtown. I just kept every time I was thinking, I was like, is everyone looking at me? I was like, I feel like everyone's looking at me. And every single time I'd look up, every single person was looking at me dead in the eye. Not just like a glance, like when you glance, like you're driving and you glance at me, like literally locked in. And that's why them delirium reports give me freak me out, because they take me back to that moment. But in a sense, there's nothing to be scared of, because it was a great experience. But in the moment, it was very weird.
Oh, I had no idea that people were going through that on deliriums. Like for me, that's like the same thing happens on traditional psychedelics. It's like obviously the Truman Show effect. Like I've shared it before. Like the neighbors were clapping for me when I had my acid trip. They were all coming out and they were congratulating me. And that's a really common theme apparently. Like everybody who has that Truman Show effect, everyone starts congratulating around them. But I think it's all part of that whole synchronistic awakening. I think as you almost go through this process of ego death, it's like the boundary between you and other slowly closes down, and the more it closes, the more your outside world seems to be interrelated to you, and the narrative changes. For me, like, because I was kind of, and I don't, like, this is how I justified it. I don't know if this is the truth, obviously, but during the trip, when people were congratulating me, like my inner voice was saying, great job, you're reacting in a positive way to what you're going through. That's why everyone's, congratulating you. But the process was, the inner voice was saying, very shortly, you're going to turn into white light and become everything forever and ever. And, so it was like, I got the sense, and when I'm reading all these trip reports, what I get the sense is everybody's almost converging to the same place, but they're just like, they're at different places, or different steps along that journey. And you always find that there's these insane synchronistic effects that the outside world is always reacting to them, and depending on how close they are to that complete connection, complete ego death, changes how much everyone reacts, or how like freaky the outside world events are. But those are my favorite trip reports for sure as well, when the outside world stuff just gets like super freaky.
I've had some very mad experiences. I was just gonna throw one more out. The only time that my worst ever, this is my worst trip of all time, but actually, as we find out, was probably the best trip of all time, or at least one of the best ones. So it was genuine 100% suffering. Like we was at this festival, we were at Rosa, and I had decided to just, I was in the moment. I was just like, all right, I'm just gonna put my hand in this bag of mushrooms. I'm just gonna eat all of them. Like, I'm just gonna eat them, not even think about it. And they didn't do anything for ages, and it was so funny. I literally turned to my mate Harry, and I was like, these mushrooms aren't very strong, are they? I was like, nah, they're not really doing anything. And literally in that very moment I said that, I just went crazy. I went insane. It's like the psilocybin just exploded into my brain, and I was like, I'm actually going to pass out. So I walked back to I was running back to my tent. Everyone was like, oh, you all right, mate? I was like, yeah, I'm fine. I'm just going back to the tent for a bit. And I literally ran to the tent, and I like passed out as I was running into the tent, like face planted it. And I went in the tent, and I had the worst pain I've ever felt in my entire life in my stomach. Like genuinely, like someone was like putting their hand, it was like Calimar or whatever, like putting your hand in the stomach, like twisting it. And it had happened like that. And I was like, oh my God, this is hell. This is genuinely hell, psychedelic hell. And then it'd stop, and I'd be, oh my God, I'm safe again. Oh, how great it is to be back on baseline. And then it'd happen again, and it keep happening. And I was like, what the fuck is going on? How the hell is this ever going to end? And then I had the eureka moment. I was like, wait, look at the setting I'm in. I'm in a dark tent in the fetal position, curled up. Of course, I'm making my own hell. So I was like, right, I'm gonna brave it. I'm gonna face reality. Open up the tent, open it up. What's happening? All my mates are there. There's beautiful music, and literally, as soon as I do that, the pain, it keeps happening. It comes in waves, but it gets less and less each time as I realised the love, and that was a really, really profound moment for me. And reality was doing some mad shit. Like they were playing like Donk and Gabba on the decks, and it was like it was like God had made their bodies go on like times 2 speed. They were literally like that, like genuinely on fast forward. And then as I went to the slower music, they were like in slow motion. And I literally said to a mate, like, "Oh, are you seeing that as well?" And like, obviously he just thought it was normal, like, but I was just tripping. But to be fair, it opened up a lot of very bizarre questions for me about consciousness and how it works. I was next to my mate Kim, and I was like, "Oh, it's the last 20 minutes of the festival," and I was like dancing for what felt like an hour. And I asked her again. I was like, "Oh, how long's left?" She's like, "Oh, there's only 20 minutes left," and she said it again, and I was like, "Fuck me." Reality is really getting quite dreamlike here. No, it's fascinating, isn't it? But
yes,
I bet you have had some mad experience.
Yeah, the thing, bad trips, that's something that really intrigues me as well, because like, I do feel like the way we can handle bad trips is the way that we handle, like, you know, difficult stuff in real life. And that for me, there's almost like two sides of it, which is, one is you can always feel good, and you can always feel like you don't have to bog yourself down with negativity. There's always that, you know, place of, I don't know, oneness and thoughtlessness that you can connect to at any moment. And so oftentimes I'll be like driving and overthinking a little, and then I'll just be like, all right, let's connect to that. But then I wonder if it's like my voice, I don't think it's the case of my voice tricking me. It's just like, it's another process almost of getting to this place where my voice will say, well, no, there's something here that you have to address. It's like, there's, you're having this difficult experience because you need to address it. And that also kind of relates to my pretty much only bad trip on mushrooms, where it seemed to be because of something. And as soon as I had addressed that something, the bad trip stopped.
Yeah.
I know that, Loka, you've had a few you've had a few difficult trips recently. Do you think there's a reason for it, or is it just like kind of random in your experience?
What trips are you referring to? Do you remember?
Well, on the Discord, you said
you
had like a 0.5 gram, trip, and it was like a really challenging experience, I think you said.
Totally.
And you said then that like all of the latest trips have been difficult.
Yeah. I think it's a matter of I'm in such a transformative chapter of my life that anytime the psychedelic portal is open, there's a lot of work waiting for me. I think my awareness is very sensitive to okay, let me sort of ground it. Let me ground it. I think as you progress, the difficulty progresses as well.
Yeah.
Mm.
And I think that
yeah.
I had some very challenging psilocybin experiences where I entered conscious territory that I wasn't necessarily prepared for. And the ideal psychedelic trip is one that gives you beautiful, profound insights, and then you come down rejuvenated and informed, and then you spend the next, however long integrating that, right? But what about the traumatic trip or the bad trip? Mm-hmm. That's the experience that's it can be too profound for comfort or too intense in a way that your psyche isn't necessarily prepared for that level of intensity. But when you're tripping, you can't just hit the off switch. You have to go through it, right? It's a commitment.
Yeah.
And I had some very challenging psilocybin experiences, and I didn't just come back from it ready to integrate. I came back from it like it's like more damage was done to my psyche than improvement in that session. It wasn't a slow dance with the mushrooms. It was an onslaught. It was like, it was horrible, dude. I lost. It won.
Right.
And
Right.
it whooped me, and I came back limping as opposed to frolicking. I came back limping mentally, and it took me 6 months to a year before I took psilocybin again. And every time I take it, it varies quite a bit.
Yeah.
But yeah, the past 3-4 psilocybin journeys that I've had have been very challenging, because
Interesting.
when I had that traumatic experience, in 2022, after that, I'm like, okay, when I take psilocybin, I'm going to space these trips out. They're going to be very intentional. I'm going to treat it with more respect. But what ended up happening was, by me taking time away from the plant, from the mushroom, that gave my ego more time to put up the shields and the defenses. So I actually ended up distancing myself from the wisdom of the mushrooms, which made it to where every time I do dose, there's a lot of work waiting for me in there, which makes it more challenging. So I'm in this process right now, again, like I said earlier, of rekindling my relationship with psilocybin and allowing it to become more of a balanced playing field of energy, as opposed to a straight up war zone of chaos.
Well, I think this is something
yeah.
people would find like super interesting, because it's one thing to just say it. It's another thing, obviously, to experience it. It's like a person can think that they don't have much of an ego, and then they're just completely humbled on a psychedelic experience, because the ego is very different maybe to what they think it is. When you're saying you're what would you say, when you're going through these challenging experiences, are you comfortable saying, and do you remember how it's inducing this discomfort?
Yeah, for sure. I read a lot about spirituality. I read a lot about unity, synchronicity, mystical experiences, enlightenment, samadhi, meditation, all of this stuff. I read lots of trip reports, and I did a pretty good job.
For the Matrix just glitched out.
Was I gone?
Yeah, you just disappeared for a second.
I'll start over really quick.
Okay.
Yeah, I spent a lot of time researching consciousness on the internet, listening to lectures and reading trip reports. And I was like I had built such an intellect of memory, where I remembered the molecules and the dosages and the effects that each psychedelic gives people. I wasn't taking these things, but I was obsessed with researching them, right? But I had read all about unity and non-duality and interconnectedness, but I hadn't experienced such profound states of ego death myself. But I had intellectualized it. I had concepts and ideas of what it's like, right? So one time, I was an idiot, and I was kind of just like, I want to take some mushrooms tonight. I'm feeling bold. I took 2.5 grams of like albinos. I forget exactly what strain they are. It wasn't penis envy. It was something else. But I took a 2.5 grams, which, bro, I take 0.5 gram and it's strong.
Yes,
right. I'm sensitive.
Yeah.
I know you are too, Vivec. But I took 2.5. I powdered it, and then I put it in a bowl of sorbet, which had acid in it, and I put orange juice in it, and I realized that I teched it. I didn't realize that I teched it.
Oh.
Not only did I tect it, but I powdered it. Right? I like triple activated this shit.
Real bad.
I was supposed to drive my friend back to his house before my parents came back from vacation or something, right? So essentially, I powder this, I eat it, because I just didn't want to taste. And dude, that's a synchronistic metaphor. I didn't want to taste.
Oh, you didn't want to taste
the mushroom.
Yeah.
I just wanted a free ride. I didn't want to pay to get on the bus. I just wanted to get on the bus. So I scarfed this thing down.
Yeah.
I set my stopwatch on my phone, as I always do, so I can keep track of time. Because I'm a researcher. I'm, right? Dude, 15 minutes in, I'm like yawning and fucking, I'm feeling the kundalini happening, and I'm just like taking deep breaths. But I was sitting at the time in the States, I had a big studio desk. I was producing music. I was with my co-producer. He was sitting to my left. And we worked with each other almost every day for like 5 years. So we really had a tight bond. We're sitting at the desk. I'm coming up on these mushrooms really fast. And I'd never teched mushrooms before, let alone 2.5 grams. So it's just coming in way too quickly. I couldn't even take cover, really. I was just, coming up quick. But the thing about it was no visuals at all.
Yeah.
Zero visuals.
I get that.
It was just pure infinite synchronistic state. Soon enough, I started to notice synchronicity. Everywhere I looked was synchronistic, and it was all one message, one narrative being reinforced in real time with microscopic details everywhere. And soon enough, it's like my memory, the range of my memory went from, as it usually is, to it was hard for me to remember what somebody was saying. When somebody was speaking a sentence, I could only remember the single word that they're saying right now. So it's like my sense of self was pulling itself out of the past and future, and I was becoming more and more present, thus sacrificing my memory of the past. And also, it's like the boundary between myself and other was starting to dissolve. I started to experience the sensation that I was the entire room around me. And everything that my friend was saying, it felt as though I was saying it through his body.
Right.
I was the cat walking into the room. And it was weirder than that. This was, by the way, the context here is that I was in this current chapter of my life where the world was ending. That was my psychotic narrative in the back of my mind for like 12 months.
We love a psychotic narrative.
I was always on edge, like, dude, like, reality's crumbling. All of the societies are crumbling, right? So I was always, I was always looking out for the signs, right? And that was starting to amplify in this trip, and it started to actually drive the narrative of the trip. So, of course, my consciousness was creating that narrative in reality, or at least affirming it with synchronicities. So, so I was like starting to freak out a little bit internally, but I wanted to keep my cool and not freak my friend out because he was sober. Right. We were just chilling. So on the outside, I was cool and calm. I was just like, yeah, what's going on, dude? On the inside, the fucking alarms are going, the red lights are flashing, my ego is like hanging on and shit. And so I was like, we were also, so I'm mid freak out, and I go to the computer to turn on some relaxing sounds, right, to kind of chill me out. So I go to YouTube, and on the front page of YouTube, you know how it gives you the recommended tiles and videos?
Yeah.
It's like psyched substance. Don't do this on mushrooms. Top 10 things not to. The second one was like Vivec, worst mushroom trip report ever. The third one was dude. And then one of them was one of them was the highest Joe Rogan's ever been on the podcast. and I click on, because I'm just like, yo, what happened to Joe? I click on it. He's rambling nonsense. He's just saying gibberish, like speaking in tongues. And then and then it cuts to like this shadowy figure guy, this guy with glasses and a hood on like this, just sitting.
Yeah.
And I thought that Joe Rogan's studio got like raided by some bad guys and they're trying to kill him. And I was like, oh, it's the end of the world. If they got Joe, we're all done. So then so then I start kind of chilling out a little bit. I'm cleaning the room on psilocybin. When I start cleaning the house, it starts giving me like this sense of orderly control. So it's a mechanism that the ego kind of does. But yeah, so I'm cleaning, and you know how mushrooms go in waves. So I'm coming on a down wave, okay? And I think, oh, I'm come down. I'm down. I'm back.
Yeah.
We are so back.
Right? And also my parents were about to be home, and they wanted my buddy gone by the time they get home. So I have to go drive him home.
Fuck.
So it's like, it's snowing a bit outside, it's dark time, sun is down, and we get our bags and stuff. I'm like, all right, let's go to yours. So we're going up to the car. He takes a bit of mushrooms on the way out. That's kind of irrelevant to the story because it never actually turns into anything.
Sure.
But we get to the car. I turn on the car, and it's like, I'm kind of getting the sense that the mushrooms are about to kick in again, right? Because things are starting to feel kind of like I'm in alien spaceship technology. I turn on the car, and I turn on a song called Someday by Weevil.
Yeah.
And I put it in drive. We start going, and I'm in my driveway turning out onto the road. And I feel as though the road and the car, the tires are stuck to the road. I had the sensation that it was a hovercraft that was kind of like loosely going over the road. So when I would go and turn, it was kind of like everything was like delayed and floaty. And I was like, whoa,
so
like,
bad.
it was like, I would rather drink a 6-pack of beer and get in the car than have this mushroom trip in the car. Like, it was bad, dude.
That's bad.
So we're going down the road, and I have like my street. Kids. I'm on like a private road, and it's like a mile long. So I get to the end of the road, and I'm about to turn on the main road to go to his house, because anyway, I get to the end of the road. I just saw Joe Rogan is insane. They got him. It's the end of the world. Keep your cool. Let's just go. Keep it chill. I get to the end of the road, and there's tons of cops, like, stopping the cars and stuff.
The last thing
and I was like, no. So I'm driving. The cops let me through. They're like, go on. So I'm like, okay, cool. Go down the road. So now we're on the way to his house. The mushrooms start kicking in again pretty hard. And I know this is long-winded. I'm about to wrap it up.
Keep
so
it going.
This
could be the next big. This could be the next
a-
big trip report. This.
So, dude, I have so many I have to write.
I was gonna say again, dumb.
But anyway,
you should.
Big collabs.
Okay, so this road, it's like you're supposed to go. It's a 45 mile per hour speed limit, which is pretty fast for a small road with only 2 lanes in the dark while it's snowing, right? And I'm in a line of cars on the right lane. We're going, and I'm just keeping up with the flow of traffic. I'm like, as long as I am like in my lane and not speeding or doing anything stupid, I'm fine, right? Yeah. I can see straight. Everything's fine. Everything's cool. I'm just going along. And then, dude, in my peripheral vision, the trees, like I'm driving, the trees are passing me, right? The trees are passing as I'm driving. And in my peripheral vision, suddenly the trees are like slowing down and they stop. I'm driving 50 miles an hour in this line of cars, and I can feel that the car is moving, but it looks as though I'm completely still.
Rare.
And then they start going in reverse. They start passing the opposite direction where it looks like I'm driving in reverse. And you can imagine that the mental trickery, you just freak out, right? Yeah. I kept my cool. this looped. It went from forward to still to backward to still. It looped like that, like 5 or 6 times. Finally, we get to his house. And metaphorically, I'm all beat up mentally. I'm seeking comfort. I'm seeking warmth. And some sort of like, I forget the word. It starts with an R. Not resolution, but no. Damn, I'm blanking on the word. Anyway, like I'm seeking some sort of, I don't know. But anyway, we get to his house and open the front door, and it's warm in this house, dude. It's so warm. And I walk in, and I see there's a big fireplace with a fire in it, and there's like this giant, I think it was like a bear hide or something, but it was this big rug made out of some animal's hide. And I go in there, and I just drop all my stuff, and I just fall on the floor, and I just start bowing. I'm just bowing, saying, just bring me back to normal. I have not earned this state of awareness, because right, it's like I'd eaten a ticket to non-duality, and I wasn't ready for non-duality. It was very scary to me. It was really traumatizing, and all I wanted was for things to come back to normal. And it taught me so much. It taught me how to respect the plants. So I'm bowing, and I'm sitting here. And dude, when your identity is threatened so much like that, when your ego, your sense of sanity is threatened, suddenly you have so much gratitude for what you do have in this life.
Right.
You have family and friends, and you have a physical body, you have a home, you have nature, you have the sun, you have water to drink, food to eat. Those things are so lovely, right? Yeah. It's a miracle that we can experience these things. And I was in a state of such gratitude and such humility. It whooped my ass so hard, I was humbled completely. I was like, dude, I'm not meant for that non-dual state. I haven't earned that state of awareness. I'm sitting here taking psychedelic substances to catapult myself into these boss battles that I haven't earned and unlocked. So that's abuse. That's abuse. And then so I start coming down. I'm in front of this fireplace, and over the next hour, I've come down. And all I could think was, how is Joe doing? Is Joe Rogan okay? And I can't stop thinking about it. So I go on YouTube, and I go back
is
to
Joe
it.
okay?
And guess what it was? Dude, Joe Rogan had smoked Snoop Dogg's weed. Snoop Dogg was on the show. And I watched the whole episode, most of the episode there. And it turns out that my projection of the end of the world was just a hallucination. It was just a synchronistic happenstance. And what actually happened was Snoop Dogg came on his show, and they were just hanging out. And Joe got really high and started mumbling on accident. And I saw that snippet that affirmed my entire projection of the end of the world. So then I was sitting there on my phone laughing. I'm relieved. It's just Snoop Dogg. They're chilling. And then it took me about 6 to 12 months to find myself in a mental headspace where I was ready to eat psilocybin again. It took a long time. And for 2 months after that experience, I was scared of everything. Somebody would open the door and I'd freak out. It put me on edge, dude. It was really bad. Anytime I had cannabis during that period, straight up panic attacks. It was the worst, dude. I felt so fragile in my mind. I had no frame. I had no, like a car's frame that holds it together. Mine was just jelly. It could be blown over by the wind. If somebody looks at me weird, it'll start ticking off some schizo like ideas in my mind, right? So
Yeah.
I understood that sanity can be broken and that you have to value it and take care of it. So since then, I've done a pretty good job with regrouping and developing a frame that is compatible, not just compatible with reality, but something that I can lean on. I think that's the importance of an ego, and an identity is something that's rock solid, that is a home that you can house your consciousness in for the time being, and you have to take care of it. So I don't think the goal is to kill the ego. That could kill your sanity, really. The ego is a really important thing, and I think it's there for a reason.
That's my big message at the minute is obviously I've now started making videos where I appear on camera, where I'm just sort of like, giving a bit of an addendum to the main content, and and responding to a lot of the ideas that these sort of like new psychonauts have. And it's like, the mission is not to kill your ego. Like you are here as a human because you consciously decided to be here as God. Before you were born, you consciously decided to incarnate into this like 3-dimensional space to learn and train your mind and soul. So the more you try to kill your ego, the more you're trying to escape the thing that you have created, and that's gonna incur some serious karmic reckoning. And I think we've had many that you just described in your experience there. There's basically almost the same thing for me, but it was with LSD, and I was scared. I wasn't scared off from psychedelics in general, but I was just scared of taking acid again. And just in very brief, and funnily enough, that happened in 2022 as well, which is really weird. It must have been quite a chaotic year for us all.
For me, it was in December, like at the end of the year.
I think mine. That's funny because I think mine was in January 2022. So it's like the inverse. Like, and I remember I just took acid. I just thought, you know what, taking acid, fucking God knows how many times. It's usually quite predictable, and.
I think Vivec's disappeared.
He just
blasted off.
Mate, I have no idea what happened there. Literally,
Hey, you're
the
back.
universe just
Let's go.
exploded. Wow, it just couldn't. It couldn't handle me.
Disappeared. Oh, that's funny.
That was poetic. That.
Do you remember what we were talking about, brother? Where were you when you blasted off?
I was just saying that when I took LSD, it scared me off LSD because basically I've got a video on my channel actually about experiencing multiple personalities, and I started switching between personalities of being like, just anything that I thought, had a slight thought of, I'd become, and I would actually act it out and like literally physically. So I'd think I was like some old sort of like racist, like hyper right wing conservative guy, like, hey, fucking get these foreigners out of my country and all that. And I was like I literally became him. And then,
I knew it.
And then, but then it was weird. I'd switched to his wife, and I was like, "Oh, what are you on about, love? Don't be doing that." So I was having a conversation. I was talking to myself in my ex-girlfriend's parents' bedroom. I was literally talking. I was like, "Oh, what are you on about, love?" I was like, "Hey, we fucking need to get them foreigners out of my bloody country, like," and all this. And then I'd be walking around her house, and I'd be looking at video games. Why are all these bloody queers playing these fucking video games? It's for kids and all that. And it was mad, and I was going through all these dark like inverse personalities of like who I really am. And then my ex had this figure of he's called Judge Death from the Judge Dredd comic book series, and he looks like a fucking he looks like a weird like psychedelic demon. And I looked at him, and I no word of a lie, I looked at him, and then I imagined myself being raped by him, and I actually had the experience. Like I think that, you know, that my most popular video, that 1000 UG LSD trip report, the ones that what could possibly go wrong, we had that experience, like you literally felt it, like not like physically, but it was like he metaphysically felt as if he was being like raped. And I had that from looking at this demon, and I was like, oh my fucking God, this is twisted. And that scared me off LSD for a long time, and every single time now I'm never like the opportunity to take acid ever comes up, I always go back to that moment. But in a sense, I now look at that trip and laugh. Like, you've got to look back on it and laugh, haven't you? Like, yeah, your experience, Loka, the way you were describing it before, it's funny. It's actually hilarious. In hindsight, it's genuinely hilarious how your mind can spin something into such twisted avenues.
Dude, something about that trip report that I mentioned is, if that happened again to me now, I'd kind of just sit and observe.
I was going to ask you that. Yeah, I was going to ask you how you'd react.
Because I was like, okay, now I've peered into the perimeter, that fence wall that we call ego death.
Yeah,
I've ventured a little bit into there. Now I at least know where it is on the map. In the past, it was intellectual. So I didn't actually know what it was. But when you experience a little bit of it, you're like, oh, okay, so that's a thing. That's real. That's possible. Now that I know it's possible, and that... Because I thought that I was just permanently going insane. But now looking back, I'm like, no, the psilocybin was working. It was a good batch. That's all that happened.
Yeah.
So...
Yeah, you always think you've broken reality beyond the point of no return. And this is actually quite interesting about my ketamine experiences. I've had quite a lot, because everyone goes on about K-holes, but people don't really talk about this experience on Ket. And I don't know if it's just me and I'm wired up in some bizarre way, but there'd be points where like it would be like I was in, you know, when in Gmod or something, when you spawn too many items and that the engine literally can't handle it. It starts like slowing down and like everything starts clipping and
the
clipping
FPS
about.
Goes down and
the FPS goes about and like all the ragdolls are like clipping through the objects, and it literally, I've had experiences where it was literally like that. I was just playing I was playing Final Fantasy VII Rebirth like a while ago, and on the Special K. And just thinking, oh, it's just a bit of Special K, I can handle it, can't I? And then literally it wasn't doing anything to me at all. And then the last bit of it I had, Cloud and the gang on the game, they literally, I was trying to make a move with the controller, and they weren't moving. They were literally just like stilted. And then I was like, I was like, oh shit, I've broken my brain, haven't I? And then as soon as I had that thought, my desk disappeared, my phone disappeared, my hand disappeared, and then what usually happens in that moment when you're on there Special K is to you have to like recreate reality again. So you go into this like you go into like a spasm. I literally go into a spasm, like rolling around on the floor, and the harder I rolled and the more conscious force I exhibited, more of the room would appear back again. So like, oh, I twisted again, and then my bed came back, and I've come back, and then my TV's back again. And honestly, it is
dude.
It's something I want to start. It's something I want to start highlighting more on the channel, because I don't think people understand just how trippy Special K actually is. It's way more hallucinogenic than people give it credit for, because there's the classic K-hole of like, oh, you fall into this blackness, this geometry. I've had that loads of times, but sometimes it does things that are just physically impossible, like walking into rooms and I'm like, there should be a table there and it's not there. It's like the cat turned off the part of my brain that was supposed to perceive that table, so they literally cannot actually physically materialize. It's fucking crazy, man.
Wow.
Yeah.
Hello. That's intense. I have heard of some trip reports, not to like the rolling around and like bringing things back. I haven't heard that too many times, but I've heard of a few stories where people come. I've heard of like people coming out of, well, they normally say they're coming out of the K-hole, I think, and then they say that they have to rebuild the world, unless I'm thinking of ego deaths, and then they come back and they have to like recreate everything. It seems to be like a common thread with deep trips, where which is the freakiest part. Coming back, the narrative of coming back to this world is you recreating reality. It's never as simple as like, oh, I feel like everything I was just experiencing is dissolving and I'm coming back. It's like, no, it's like I've left this world. I have to remember the world I imagined, or I have to build a new one and then pretend this is the one I've been in forever. And then they come back. Like that's so weird and so common.
Yeah, and there's a different sort of creation process, isn't there, on all of these different hallucinogens? Like, the way you come back from when you break reality on shrooms, you create it in a different way. You break reality on ket, and it's like that's what I. Yeah, it's funny because if I ever get like too spaghetti mind, as we call it in the UK, at festivals or something, I'll go. I'm like, oh, Vivec's going to go into the rolling mode, and I'll just go, and then I'm like, oh, right, I'm back now. Great. I didn't actually break reality. I actually recreated it. But in that moment, that is the most fear I've ever felt in my whole life, where it was like, this is the point of no return. You are now you have now broken your brain, and you are trapped inside basically a glitched out video game. And that is quite. It's like it was like being on Skype. It was like a Bethesda game without any like bug fixes or anything. Like literally just like I'd look at my chair, and then the chair would just like fly up, and then I'd go to the toilet, and then 1 minute the toilet's behind me, and then it's in front of me. It's actually mad, but it makes me appreciate the insanity, the beautiful insanity that these chemicals can make you experience. It gives me empathy for people who actually suffer with serious mental disorders that might have to experience reality like that all the time. So it's like
Good.
lessons
so
learned.
do you think if you went back there, you would be able to tell yourself, okay, don't worry, this is temporary, I'm going to come back to being sober, or I'll come back to this world and everything will be fine? Or do you think like it's just too much each time you go there, you feel like you'll be insane forever?
The amount I've had that experience of me having to literally like spasm reality back into existence quite a few times, and every single time, even though I know I'm going into it like thinking, I know that I'm going to come back, when you're in it, your mind just thinks it's the end. You think the eternal doom always sinks in. But in a sense, I like that, because then when you reconstruct reality, then it makes you appreciate the stability of just this experience that you have now. So in a sense, I'm grateful for the fact that in the moment you do think it's all over, and then you come back and realize, oh wait, of course it's not over, because consciousness can't really end because it's infinite. So it's
right.
It's very it's humbling. I can't be asked to happening again, though. I probably don't want to be doing that anymore, because it's probably not good for your brain on a physical level.
I think ketamine's one substance that always kind of, not always, but towards the end, when I started being a little bit more sensitive to trips, and a little bit like my fear started creeping back in, I think ketamine was one of the substances I was a bit afraid of, because it seems like you lose a bit of yourself on there. Like, obviously you lose yourself in all psychedelics and stuff, but it seems like it, I don't know how to say it, but because it's a dissociative, you can be here in this world, but just be completely like removed from yourself. And I think that aspect, I wasn't sure how prepared I could be. So I've never had a K-hole or anything. I know nothing about what a K-hole's like.
I think
it's a shame, because I want to know.
It's definitely, it's a very profound substance. It's a great tool for exploring altered states. But I think there was one thing that must be said. Obviously, that we're having a ketamine epidemic in the UK. It's like, I don't know, there's lots of good BBC documentaries that say it better than I can, but the is like quadrupled since 2012, the amount of people using. And
can you overdose on ketamine lethally?
You can, but it take a fuck ton. But also it's sort of relative. Like, I've heard of some people that they actually have too much ketamine, and like they stop breathing, like they forget how, well, they just don't consciously breathe. But that's a lot.
But they survive.
No, some of them die. Like there's this lad in the UK. He was a ket addict, and I think he like absolutely blasted through 2 grams. Like he was in a super deep K-hole, like, but this is an exceptional case, and he did actually stop breathing and he died. But this is one thing I was going to say. You're saying about you do actually lose yourself because it's a dissociative, and the problem with habitual use of dissociatives is, and I've actually found it, and now I'm actually literally repairing myself. I was noticing that I was turning into a bit of a robot, because I was turning off my brain so much that I just felt like an automaton. Like it was really it was sapping my emotions and the way I connect with reality, because quite literally, what is it? It's disconnecting you, and it's dissociating you from reality. And if you do it all the time, even on a physical level, what is it doing on a chemical level? You are giving yourself brain damage. So and I think this is another thing that people need to bear in mind about psychedelics, is that Yeah, we do. Obviously, we know that shrooms and LSD and the classic psychedelics are safer than alcohol, than heroin, than cocaine. But it must be said that psychedelics still put a lot of stress on like your nervous system and your body, and you genuinely don't know what is actually going down on an atomic level.
Dude, you know actualize.org? Leo
Oh,
Bura?
yeah. Oh, the man, man.
Dude, he talked about, I think he boofed 5 or 10 milligrams of 5-MeO-DMT. And he had this experience where this, well, I think it was Kundalini energy, but basically this electricity was running through his entire nervous system at such a high voltage that he said he experienced lightning shooting out of all of his fingertips.
Yes.
And then it left scars on the skin of the ends of his finger for months and months and months. These, like, scars and, like, dead skin. And maybe somebody else in the room couldn't see it happening, but at a metaphysical level, it was happening.
Yes,
right?
Leo's a brilliant.
He's amazing,
thinker.
Dude.
He's probably my greatest inspiration. The way he articulates the psychedelic experience and just articulates consciousness and mind and God in general is deeply beautiful. And I read that exactly because I go on the Actualize forum quite a bit. I'm a bit of a lurker, and I always have been. And that experience of the lightning affecting him on like a genuine physical level, that actually reminded me of when people get abducted by aliens and UFOs and entities, and they have like the idea of like surgery, and like they'll wake up and they'll, like, maybe they like put like a syringe in the neck, or they put usually something in the chest, isn't there? And then they even have physical proof of it. Like, let's say that I literally had no marks here, and then I had this experience. The day after, I had the exact mark where the alien put the syringe in me. And you can do it even on my channel. Obviously, I do a lot of UFO stuff. It's the National UFO Reporting Center. That's where I got a lot of my like UFO reports from. And there's so many of them and people actually provide pictures where I was like, look, right, I got abducted by these weird little green men, or whatever the entity was that they encountered. Doesn't have to be the classic grey. And yeah, they'll have surgery performed on them. They'll do something. They'll even have sex with them, and they'll have physical effects from it afterwards. And that made me think about Leo's comment about the lightning, where it makes you think that like there is a massive connection going on, isn't there, between consciousness and UFOs and aliens and higher states of being, to the point where it actually can physically affect you.
That's for another podcast.
Oh,
because
that
that's
could go on for hours.
Intense.
That's a lot. That's a lot, right?
We all love the aliens. The trippy triad here. We love the aliens, don't we? Fucking hell, can you not? It's all interlinked.
Yeah, exactly.
All interlinked, isn't it? Massively.
I wonder if
Vivec, you were talking about how you haven't actually had
an entity experience,
direct confrontation with their entities. But
I was just about to say this shit.
You've gotten whispers. You've gotten the scratches at the walls. You've gotten the synchronicities.
It's probably behind me right now.
I mean, you've gotten,
in a sense,
some level of familiar and long-term interaction with them at a low level, though, right?
Yes. To be fair, I mentioned this to you, XBret, in our podcast a few weeks back, where I've not had... So it wasn't like a classic entity that I have seen people like yourself and others in the trip reports describe, but it was it was more like the feeling of a presence, an aura, and it was when I had my 90 milligram 4-ACO DMT trip, where that was my deepest mystical experience I've ever had. There was no Vivec anymore. There was no reality. It was gone. It was like I was a galaxy brain, like that meme. And I had a very, very distinct sense that I come back to of there being this purple motherly woman-like romantic figure. She was motherly, but it was also romantic, and it was like the feminine aspect of like my psyche made manifest. and she was cradling me, telling me it was all going to be all right, and so I couldn't describe
Is
to you how
really
she looked.
big? Is it like you know the movie King Kong, where he's really big, but he's holding the girl, and she's like this big?
It felt
I get
a bit
that
like that
from the Purple Woman. It's like
I've seen the Purple Woman in a lot of trip reports. Like apparently it seems to be quite common. So, and the purple as well, like just that colour. I associate purple with DMT and trippy stuff. Something about purple really is quite trippy. And it was like I couldn't see her as like an outline. It wasn't like a shadow figure or anything I could actually draw, but I could tell it was like an entity, like a presence. So that's the closest I've come to. But I've never actually seen a little green man in any of my trips. So even though I would love to see a little green man with a laser rifle, that would be sick. Although I probably shouldn't.
I don't know.
To see it.
It's hard because for me, I think the entities kind of helped me deal with the psychedelic trips. So it was kind of like for my DMT experience, like I didn't have access to DMT like readily. Like it was hard to come by. So when my friend said he's got some DMT, I was like, I am blasting off no matter what. This might be my only opportunity. So I put everything in. I just did one massive toke. Had no idea how much was a big dose, but a small dose. I just did as much as I could, and then held it in for as long as I could. Did the whole like breathing out, but before the smoke leaves, you breathe it back in. Was doing that with every hit I could. And I just remember when it started to kick in, it was just like instant regret. I was like, holy shit, like this is not a game. I was like, I have taken this drug thinking I'm about to have this experience in front of me, but this is changing everything. I was like, I'm not ready. And that's the first time I kind of experienced that very strong inner voice disconnection, where it's like, it's okay. You knew it was going to be like this. Just listen to what we're telling you, and everything will be okay. And just like that, I was like, well, like, what do you mean? Who's you guys? And as soon as I started like focusing on that, trying to ignore the feeling of the intense, like super intense, like, your body's breaking down and everything from the DMT, that's when these entities kind of swooped in. They started speaking to me and undoing my reality, and the rest is history. So I feel like for me, entities help me deal with that place a lot, but because you guys are so familiar with it already, it might be the case that you go to that place without the assistance of like experiencing entities, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that's a good point. I've heard some other people say that themselves, that like in fact actually Leo Gura himself, obviously super into psychedelics, he's probably experienced like things I can't even wrap my head around, and he goes on about not actually experienced. He's never met like DMT entities or anything, because in a sense the DMT entities or any entity in a psychedelic trip, it is sort of like a vehicle for a higher understanding. And I feel
it's
like
a thought form. It's like the okay. Imagine garlic is a dimension with infinite depth. When you hold a piece of garlic, you're just looking at the tip of the iceberg of the garlic dimension, but your consciousness can go into infinite depths of garlickiness, right? So I think entities are like dimensional concepts or beings or forms. They're like thought forms condensed into something that you can interface with on a separate level, but I think really they are symbols.
Archetypes. Like Carl Jung goes on about them quite a lot. He was big into UFOs and entities, and obviously we were talking, brief touch upon it, the parallels between UFOs and aliens and DMT entities and consciousness. They're all fitting into a bigger picture, aren't they here? I don't want to like I said, I don't want to talk about it too much, because I think we should do a part 2 where we solely dissect like aliens and that, because
I have so much for that, dude.
Talks about it as well.
There's a trip report I'll share with you guys then. Actually, I blasted off into another dimension from smoking a CBD joint.
Oh yeah,
That
I remember you telling me about that. That was
Dude.
insane.
Dude.
That was wild.
Now
I was like, what the hell?
Stupid. It was so it was
Just insane.
it felt like the entities found like an excuse to break into my home.
Well, that
Like,
is close
no, wait,
enough.
I didn't even take a psychedelic. I took CBD, and they're like,
Yeah.
whatever. We're taking you anyway.
Yeah.
I got abducted.
We're
dude.
still coming for
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll tell you about that next
That's
time.
insane. Yeah.
But yeah.
All right. Well, 2.5 hours, boys. That was a great trip report. Great trip report. Great podcast.
Our
Thanks so
lives
much
are a
for-
great trip report.
I know. Thanks so much for coming on, guys. Really appreciated it, especially because it was like both of you kind of last minute, but we got it done. And I feel like even though it's not my first podcast, I kind of feel like it's my first podcast. I feel like I'm back in form. I want to do these more regularly. So yeah,
It's
this
crazy,
was
like
sick.
talking to you, not on FaceTime, dude. Because
Oh really?
Jack and I talk, Trip Whip and I talk plenty, just like casually.
Yeah.
And we've always been planning to do something like
Yeah.
this, a
Sick.
podcast. And I was like,
Yeah.
you know what? And it's basically my first podcast. I'm like, let's bring Vivec on it, kill two birds with one stone. So yeah, this was amazing. This is a lot of
Oh,
fun.
we're definitely
Yeah.
on the wavelength, boys. 100%.
Yeah.
Thank you very much for having me on.
1000%.
I know me and you have been talking about this for ages, haven't we? Trip with,
Yeah.
possibly years, and like, but
It's-
that's
yeah,
the
I
thing.
know.
The stars align, and this made it.
Yes.
this
They
was
really
the best,
did.
This
They
is the best
really
time for it
did.
to happen.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I wanted
It's
to
funny
do a
because
podcast with both of you, and it's always just like not worked out. And then finally, it just clicked.
Yeah.
And it was like so easy.
That's it.
Um,
That's it.
Hell
Cool.
yeah.
I mean, I have socials in the description. Both of you got like, I feel like we've got different followings in different places anyway. So for YouTube,
just
it's not
share
going to
it.
do much for you guys.
Share it around.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
I bet
Alright,
I
geez.
can guarantee you one thing. I can guarantee you
Yeah.
one thing. What is great for us psych tubers is there is a massive crossover between our audiences. I see people that
Yeah.
comment a lot on my videos, comment on your videos, Loka, on Instagram or TikTok or whatever. I'm always checking them out. Oh, there he is. There's that guy or that girl.
Yeah.
Who's also a Vivec head, they're a Loka head, they're a Trip Whip head. Oh, we've got a great
Yeah.
thing going on here, and let's keep at it.
Yeah. That's an awesome community. All right, I'll stop this recording. You might have to, I don't know, but you might have to keep the browser open while it uploads.
Oh, me and Loka know very well about that from the
Oh,
Psych
yeah.
Loka podcast, where everyone just
Oh,
like, right,
really?
okay, we're going now.
I'm a Riverside veteran.
And then Rob's like,
okay.
"Nah, mate,
Cool.
mate, everyone needs to get back on right now because it's fucked." No.
Oh, fair. All right,
Yeah.
let me stop this. Bam.